Hey guys, welcome to the Phinnean podcast, where we take a fun look and a critical approach to the UAP field, sightings, abductions, testimonials, interviews, as well as video footage, analyzed through a critical lens, of course. So join us, sit back, enjoy the ride. So, good to see you again, JP.
Good to see you, my friend, as always.
Absolutely. Welcome to the Phinnean podcast, everybody.
Phinnean podcast, yeah.
Yeah. So, what's on the menu today, JP? What do we got?
So this is another part to our Real Reveal series that we hope you will enjoy. It's a little bit different than what we usually do, but I think it will be very enlightening. And go back to one. It'll be very enlightening, and I think you guys will enjoy. And I think, for me, or for me and Larry, I think it'll give us an opportunity to look at the things that we're interested in from a very different perspective. And we're gonna call this part of the Real Reveal, Part 2, Project Bluebeam. If you guys are familiar with Bluebeam, you gotta go all the way to one. Or, as I like to call it, PSYOP Bluebeam. We're going to start this episode with a portion of a film that I think is kind of enlightening. I think we could let it roll.
Late 80s, right?
Yeah, late 80s. We could let it roll and just kind of it's only 2 minutes. Maybe we'll leave it uninterrupted. Let it kind of do its thing.
May very well be a self-perpetuating, unconscious form of brainwashing created by a world totalitarian government based on money, and that all of this is much more dangerous than one thinks. And it's not just a question of individual survival, Wally, but that somebody who's bored is asleep, and somebody who's asleep will not say no. See, I keep meeting these people. I mean, just a few days ago, I met this man whom I greatly admire. He's a Swedish physicist, Gustav Bjornstrand, and he told me that he no longer watches television, he doesn't read newspapers, and he doesn't read magazines. He's completely cut them out of his life because he really does feel that we're living in some kind of Orwellian nightmare now, and that everything that you hear now contributes to turning you into a robot. And when I was at Findhorn, I met this extraordinary English tree expert who had devoted his life to saving trees. Just got back from Washington, lobbying to save the redwoods. He's 84 years old. He always travels with a backpack because he never knows where he's going to be tomorrow. And when I met him at Findhorn, he said to me, "Where are you from?" And I said, "New York." He said, "New York, yes, that's a very interesting place. Do you know a lot of New Yorkers who keep talking about the fact that they want to leave but never do?" And I said, "Oh, yes." And he said, "Why do you think they don't leave?" I gave him different banal theories. He said, "Oh, I don't think it's that way at all." He said, "I think that New York is the new model for the new concentration camp, where the camp has been built by the inmates themselves, and the inmates are the guards, and they have this pride in this thing they've built. They've built their own prison, and so they exist in a state of schizophrenia, where they are both guards and prisoners, and as a result, they no longer have, having been lobotomized, the capacity to leave the prison they've made, or to even see it as a prison." And then he went into his pocket and he took out a seed for a tree and he said, "This is a pine tree." He put it in my hand and he said, "Escape before it's too late." See, actually for 2 or 3 years now, Chiquita and I have had this very unpleasant feeling that we really should get out. And we really should feel like Jews in Germany in the late 30s. Get out of here. Of course, the problem is where to go, because it seems quite obvious that the whole world is going in the same direction. See, I think it's quite possible that the 1960s represented the last burst of the human being before he was extinguished, and that this is the beginning of the rest of the future now, and that from now on there'll simply be all these robots walking around, feeling nothing, thinking nothing, and there'll be nobody left almost to remind them that there once was a species called a human being, with feelings and thoughts, and that history and memory are right now being erased, and soon nobody will really remember that life existed on the planet.
Wow.
So it's pretty enlightening, in the sense that there's a lot of truth in there. There's a lot of, it's pretty deep, right?
It's amazing how relevant, I mean, it's wild stuff.
Yeah, it's, we've all become robots, and like, the dumbing down of humanity.
Like more and more and more every decade. It's kind of like, if you look back, it's kind of like there's major shifts. You know what I mean? It is all of a sudden, because 10 years, as we know, which goes by as fast. I mean, look at our relationship. It's sort of like, we got back together because of the phenomenal thing that happened with UFOs and orbs between us, right? And it's like, but you and I are so close, it was always like, as we spoke over time and things like that, it was like we picked up the conversation from, the previous year, the 2 years before that, and even though a decade went by or more.
Yeah, but it feels like no time went by. I think and that's the reason that we created this podcast. But I don't put us in the category of what this person was explaining, and I don't think I would put the people that are interested in our podcast in that category either. Yeah. But I think it's I think it's very sad, that how much truth there is in that little clip as to, what's happening in society, as we see it today. I don't see it getting any better.
No doubt, it just seems like a major progression, with no looking back.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, what's next? Right?
So I found this cool image that kind of represents in a nutshell. The kind of represents in a nutshell, what was that guy was describing. Here we are, mindless robots controlled by a robot. Well, the injection,
that's pretty recent.
Yeah. So, and we all go from being different to turning the same. So, I thought that was really interesting and a good way to start this episode. So that segues us into the next thing, which is Project Bluebeam.
Yeah, so this is just wild.
NASA and other government agencies have been working in secret since 1983 on something called Project Bluebeam. The purpose? To pave the way for a global government by fooling people into thinking it's the end of the world. Here's how it works according to Mr. Monast. First, the group will fake an alien invasion, convincing the world that aliens are planning to take over major cities across the globe.
And I think we were just touching on that in our hologram episode of what's capable with these things and what they could portray right in front of us, in front of our eyes, and how would we know the difference? I mean, somebody picking something up animalously, on, if that's a word, on the side of the road as he's having a conversation with somebody, and maybe a bottle broke, and then who knows how that happened, where he saw the UFO and decided to do that, right? It's kind of like, that's a fluke. But if we're talking about mass populations, cities, things like that, I mean, it's almost like, how are you going to convince anybody that wasn't real?
Right.
Or if they weren't prepared yet with that technology or that entertainment or whatever's being rolled out, you just hit them with that, and then you're going to see mass hysteria. This could be the only reaction, even to the fact that could be an entertainment function. You know what I mean? It's like, some people are still going to hysterically be like, what the F? What have I seen my whole life? How long has this been around? Because it looks like it's really, really well done, sort of thing, So I'm going to play this.
Sure.
Second, religious populations will be treated to a rapture in full fulfillment of their religion's prophecies.
Was this used
This will all be a sham, conducted through the use of large-scale holograms and microchips hidden within most modern electronics. Once the various nations of the world topple under the massive civic unrest and panic, the New World Order will assert itself, and the people of the world, desperate for any sort of authority, will accept its rule. Mr. Monast doesn't stop there. He also believes that NASA will use low-frequency electromagnetic waves to...
So this unfortunately gets cut off. I don't have more of this. Hold on before you go to the next one.
Yeah.
So to expand on something you said, this mass hysteria, that's kind of you beat me to it, because that's my... that's been kind of my hypothesis on this sinister approach to what may or may not happen, is that they want to create, they are the powers that be.
Right.
They want to create this mass hysteria so that we take ourselves out of the way, and they don't have to do any of that work, right? Because if one believes end times is coming and there's an alien invasion, and the things that Project Bluebeam were intended for, one probably would give up hope, right? I mean, or be desperate, or say, well, everything I believed in, I have to now question my faith, because how can I believe in my religion? And then if you don't have religion and you don't have faith, what do you have to live for? there's no decency anymore. There's no consequences as far as you're concerned anymore.
Yeah.
So that's what I think is the ultimate motive here.
Absolutely. I mean, if that is indeed the motive, and as we keep viewing these things and we start seeing this type of thing show up, if you would, it's like, okay, what just happened? What do we see? What's really going on out there, right? So it's not really, it should be a topic of what are we seeing, what's being broadcast. I think that we need to actually take a look in the projection booth and see who's back there pushing the play buttons.
And be open to the
real agenda is, and question them and question that and get them to the forefront to say what they're portraying ahead of time, because something like this getting out there, I mean, my God, it could be anything.
Yeah, it's crazy. So this guy, before you go, so Serge Monast, he was in 1970s, 80s. He was a journalist, and he started writing. He was one of the first to start writing about the NWO, the New World Order and secret society. So he kind of introduced that to the public. And in 1994, he published his findings on Project Bluebeam, which details an attempt on how a New Age religion, it involves the Antichrist. I mean, it involves a lot of revelations.
It's
type
sort of
things.
like a modern spin on religion,
Well, what they're going to do is they're going to kind of make you question your faith in religion through this fake alien invasion. And as you saw from our previous episode, part one of the real reveal, the technology exists to kind of fool the everyday person. And again, we don't want to get political in the show, but if one takes a look at the influence of the media and the propaganda machine that's become, I mean, there are no limits to what they again are capable on influencing the weak-minded. So
no doubt. So I'm gonna go over to the next one.
Yeah, you can go to the next one. All right. So this is George Monast. It's funny because he reminds me of one of the guys who'd be perfect for that Ancient Alien show. Mm-hmm. But that's a photo of George Monast if anyone's curious to know what he looks like.
Yeah, and again, we can always, every single one of these shots and stuff like that, the video clips and things like that, we could add those links to the website so that you guys can take a peek and run them in tandem or poke around while you are perusing.
So this kind of segues or is a prelude to what we just talked about.
The Imperial Japanese Mission 1917, a record of the reception throughout the United States of the special mission headed by Viscount Ishii. And when the Imperial Japanese Mission was in New York City, they had a dinner and some pretty famous people spoke at this dinner. One of them was John Dewey. John Dewey is the father of our failing, disastrous public education system. Here's what he said. Listen very carefully. John Dewey, professor of philosophy in Columbia University, who was the next speaker, was listened to with great intentness. He said, quote, "Someone remarked that the best way to unite all the nations on this globe would be an attack from some other planet. In the face of such an alien enemy, people would respond with a sense of their unity of interest and purpose." Unquote. Now, bear in mind, folks, that's 1917.
All right, so you go to the next one. Go to the next video or the next clip. And can you hit that right there? Oh, dude, hit that.
Yeah.
So this is the quote. This is the quote that...
You want to go to the next one?
No, I want you to go right here. Because we're blocking the quote.
Here?
Yeah. So the quote, right? It says, someone remarked that, and if you see what's underlined, the best way to unite all nations on this globe would be an attack from some other planet. Right? So, I mean, this is a guy who created, was the beginning of creating kind of this artificial, extraterrestrial threat, putting that idea out there. So you want to read that again before you go to the next one. You want to read that what's underlined again?
Someone remarked that the best way to unite all the nations on the globe would be an attack from some other planet.
Now, do you remember on one of our previous episodes who else said something like that? Very similar.
One of my favorite people, Ronald Reagan.
Let's go to the next one. And there it is.
There it is. Bang.
How quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from an outside of this world. So, I wonder, I keep saying that we don't want to make this political, but I wonder, when you have a Marxist from 1917, who is created, is the first one who plants the seed on creating an artificial threat from extraterrestrials, and then you have, a redeemed, president, a conservative president that basically says the same fucking thing word for word.
Somebody who's gone and who kind of planted it a while back.
And brings it back up.
Yeah.
So you have this conservative and this Marxist and this it's all fucking, that's why I get so irritated, because it's all bullshit, right? And it's this psyop that, they're calling this Project Bluebeam, but everyone's involved in it, and if you go to the next one, here we go, right? Like, now they're starting to admit the CIA simulates UFO abductions. I mean, they were faking abductions, dude.
Yeah.
And this guy right here, Dr. Jacques Vallée, he's you know who he is?
I mean, I've heard the name.
He's one of the inventors of the internet.
Yeah.
So, you start to see this web of connections, right? Like, this whole plot.
Who is this team?
It's nothing
it's like a
new.
Team of characters that's developing and then comes to the fold, and then all of a sudden they're putting something out there that's pretty hardcore, right? I mean, okay, so things are being released, but it just seems very orchestrated and over time, So really interesting stuff there.
Yeah. So the next one, I pulled up his Wikipedia page, just so you could see for yourself. Is there a way to move that down?
I could try to grab it.
So anyway, here's his Wikipedia page. You can kind of see like his credentials, and this guy's like a little bit of a scumbag. You know what I mean? Like, here he is involved with NASA and involved with the UN, and they're masterminding this hoax to fuck with us. You know what I mean? And it's yeah, that other one was good. The one you just had before. No, this one. Yeah. So, yeah, there he is, right? Like, if you go back one, can you go back one?
Yep.
Look at the photo. Look at the wiki. Look at the article photo, and then go to the Wikipedia.
Yeah.
And it's the same. Like, they use the same photo. They use the psyop photo in the fucking guy's Wikipedia page, dude. Like, they don't even care to fucking try and hide it.
I think you made a connection.
I think so.
I mean, it's not even a question here. I mean, that's the one page they have showcased there on this guy, if you're going to look it up, right? So, let's go back to that other page. Yeah.
So, what do you think? You think I'm onto something?
I think you might be onto something, Jorge.
You think I'm connecting the dots?
Yeah, I think you are, man.
I mean, what do you think?
Connecting more than the dots.
What do you think about all that?
I mean, like I said, it kind of seems like it was put out sort of like maybe the beginning of, what's being orchestrated now, and that was kind of maybe seeds were planted and stuff that, let's put this out there and see how this is absorbed. But at least let's get it out there, because obviously we need to start cranking this wheel a little bit, right? Maybe it wasn't absorbed so well at all. You know what I mean? And then it's like, okay, we have a lot more preparing to do. Maybe they did some abductions. Maybe they did some tests. Maybe they took some people and they did samples and stuff like that. Or maybe they did them elsewhere. Who knows where the hell they're really doing all this stuff, and they're creating these sort of test samples, if you would, of human beings and how they're going to react to this thing. And then over time, I think that they've gotten to a much better place with it, or we're in a much bigger testing phase, if you would, and that's the patterns and things like that we're starting to see now, right? So I think that we're kind of, a function of bringing some of this messaging to the fold here, and definitely giving some people, lots of people, something to think about and a different perspective on things.
Well, here's what I'd like to give the people, and you in particular, something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
What if this passion of ours for UFOs, UAP, extraterrestrial, what if it's all bullshit?
Yeah.
What if it's all been bullshit, dude?
Right.
Like, what if aliens don't exist? What if we are the only ones fucking out here? Like, what? I mean, like, when you see this kind of stuff, you know, I mean, it makes an argument for the other side, right? To say,
absolutely.
Well, fuck, man.
Well,
you know,
maybe,
like,
you know, maybe there's, you know, sort of like if you just kind of flip over to a whole new attitude on this thing now, right? And kind of like what we're seeing are what's possible with these things. Well, what's possible with it is anything.
Correct.
Really. So maybe there is nothing else out there, you know, but maybe this is sort of like the initial mechanism in order to control the entire population,
right.
to control all of us.
And those things that we've seen, you know, you've seen more than I have, but we have that mutual thing that, you know, we will elaborate on its own episode. What if that's all bullshit, dude? Yeah. And to your point from earlier, like the way it affects a human being to believe a certain way.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it's all bullshit. Like, we don't get to see behind the curtain.
However, this reaction is what we wanted, or we've gotten
what they wanted.
What they finally gotten to is like, that is the reaction we were going through. Nice job, high five, and then off they go.
It's working.
Start rolling it out, and it's when it's right. The seeds are growing.
Exactly.
Plants, and those plants are now called X, Y, and Z. And guess what? That's now part of your everyday. And you know what? That's the new way of doing things. Here's your shot. You know, go off.
But think about personally, right? For you personally, how influential those experiences were. Those experiences are. And you say, wow, how meaningful they are, and how they affected me, and how they motivated me to do certain things and behave a certain way. And then all of a sudden to flip the script and be like, wait a minute, you're telling me all of those feelings I had and all of those thoughts that I had could be bullshit?
Yeah.
Because
you're gonna second guess everything now.
Holy shit. But I think that's kind of the point, right? Like, things are not what they seem. Yeah. And when you look at the technological capabilities of just stuff that I was able to find on the internet in a matter of hours, we don't even know the full gamut of you know, evil that these people have at their fingertips.
Right.
You know?
Yep. No doubt.
So what's next? Oh yeah, here. Go here. So this is, you know, more evidence or more prompting or prepping, because, you know, I don't, as you know,
what happened on 11. It's
well,
like multiple books out there. There's lots of different theories that kind of tie back to something where it's all fishy.
Well, this is your boy.
Right answer.
You know who the whistleblower is? It's your boy.
Who's my
fucking, what's that douchebag's name? Alonzo Galonzo? Whatever, right? So hold on. Go back for 1 second. So he's the whistleblower on this whole thing.
Yeah.
And
right. I mean, they call him the Pentagon whistleblower at this point. You know,
meanwhile,
he was sort of like released from the Pentagon, and then he's out there doing the hard trail of,
totally.
You know, leaving the messaging out there where it's his sort of perspective on wherever there's a trail or somebody, you know, sitting down to discuss this and to take a critical, you know, angle on this stuff. I mean, you know, I just heard him on a friend of ours over at the UFO Garage the other night, you know, talking about some things there, you know, and it's kind of like, hey, look, you know, you're on the show and everything, and then it's just going to be his hardcore perspective on a lot of the things, whether they're doing it or not, or they're just opening their minds to certain things, whatever. He's going to draw a line for them, you know, and it's sort of that, you know, look, is that just completely open-minded and letting the public just kind of view it the way that they want, or absorb and to digest and to give feedback the way that they want? I don't know, you know. It seems like it's kind of being driven a little bit, but you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, my opinion on that guy, he's just a wealth of disinformation, and what he is, he's kind of like, you know, what they call leading the witness. You know what I mean? So the people like us, you know, prior to this kind of like revelation or this kind of like information that we're sharing now in the real reveal, you know, and saying and assuming right now, putting on a hat that says, all right, we're going to assume the opposite, you know. But if you are like we were or still are, right, believers, not skeptics, the shit that comes out of that guy's mouth is stuff you want to hear and you will entertain because he's leading you. And what he's doing now, you know, I mean, this is April. This is a couple of months ago where he blew the whistle. You know, this is all prompting. This is, you know, leading us to believe what is inevitably going to come, which is this alien invasion. Because as you know, and as a lot of our fans know, you know, June, which is tomorrow, they're, you know, the intelligence agencies are going to release unclassified information to Congress related to UFOs. Yeah. You know, so or this coincidence of shit that's happening, tied into this COVID nonsense. Yeah. Like it's all they're baiting us to, like, okay, well, they fell for the COVID
it's just
thing.
The next phase.
It's going to be the next thing that, is going to make us all divide more, want to kill each other. And like you said, people are going to get desperate and people are going to get scared.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they're gonna, in any sort of hysteria and everything, it's
hysteria.
Sort of like you're gonna have holograms and things like that, because imposters or not, I mean, people are gonna need them to exist, because they're gonna need answers of some kind. So it's sort of like, hey, what kind of solution do we input here? Where do we pull the meter to? Do we go to 10 or do we leave it at an 8 today? You know what I mean? Because that category is right here. I think we're in category blue. Who knows? And I'm kind of making up what that would be, actually.
Yeah, and it's hard to not believe your eyes. You know what I mean? And that's the next step. Like, how do you not believe what you see? People need that because
that's the stamp. It's like, all right, well, thank God it was that.
That will solidify the whole craze. Mm-hmm. So this next, I don't know who this guy is. If anybody knows, I'd love to give him credit.
Yeah,
but
no doubt.
He did
commentary, and he shows how the whole thing kind of gets teed up, and it's, I mean, I really appreciated this because it's sort of like, what he's kind of calling out here, what he's latching onto is sort of like, on Fox's own admission, they're supplying the DI right now, and it's kind of like, guys, where are we with this? So, I'm going to jump into this, guys.
Let's listen to
what I'm talking about that's going to be happening in June. Listen to this.
In June, the United States government is set to release a public report on everything it knows about UFOs. Lou Elizondo is the former head of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. He's been on the show a number of times. He just spoke to the New York Post about what that report will show. According to Elizondo, we will find an intelligence failure on the part of the U.S. intel community on the level of 9/11.
Now, just the title of this video that was posted by Fox News alone gives the whole thing away. The title is the following: Pentagon whistleblower warns of UFO intelligence failure. That's the name of this headline. Once they posted this video from Fox News onto YouTube by Fox News. We are being primed right now for another false narrative to be shared with the public. A false narrative that will make us afraid of the very beings and the very technology that is here to help us. Now, this man, Lou Elizondo, he was the former head of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, which was a secretive and is a secretive Pentagon unit having to do with these things. And what he's saying to perpetrate this false narrative is that these objects may be, and I quote, foreign adversaries that can put a nuclear warhead within moments over Washington, D.C. In other words, they're now pushing this narrative to make us believe that these extraterrestrial crafts, which they are calling extraterrestrial, may be here to drop a nuclear bomb on us. But why don't you hear it directly from Lou Elizondo himself?
The last time we had an intelligence failure of this country, a major one, which was 9/11, it took us almost 3 years to come up with the 9/11 Commission report. And let's just assume this is some sort of adversarial or foreign technology that several decades now has managed to leapfrog us and evade all 18 members of the intelligence community, despite our best human intelligence, signals intelligence, imagery intelligence, yada, 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 right? That would be an intelligence failure that would eclipse just about anything else this country has ever faced, especially if this has occurred for decades, that there's a foreign adversary that can put a nuclear warhead within moments over Washington, D.C.
Listen, he would not be alive unless he was given permission to say these things.
Rolling this stuff out.
Because if it was a threat and it was real and the powers that be did not want to create panic, this guy would have been fucking offed a long time ago. Yeah. That's why I don't believe any of this bullshit. Yeah. And I've started to question all of this agenda. Yeah. I still believe that there is life out there, and I still believe that there are UFOs, but
a lot of the recent activity seems to be kind of fitting the bill for.
Seems artificial to me.
An agenda of some kind, you know. And, I mean, who knows? I mean, I think, you know, maybe we should watch Independence Day again because we should get ready for that. Because I think that, who knows? He just said that they could put a nuclear weapon within, you know, a split second over D.C., you know, and right over anything, over the White House, over the Pentagon, or whatever it is, you know. So, you know, all kidding aside, I mean, hey, look, I think that Hollywood has rolled out a lot of, you know, pretty sick footage out there, you know, in the movies that we all tend to enjoy for our entertainment. But, I mean, look, this could quickly flip over, and it's now the news. And it's, right. You know, what we're seeing tonight. Welcome to the real Independence Day. And, you know, you're seeing...
Well, imagine how people are going to react. You know what their behavior is going to be like when they think that there is no tomorrow and they have nothing to live for, and they say, oh man, they question their religion, and they're like, well, what? They're going to turn into fucking animals. It's going to turn into Sodom and Gomorrah out there, if not worse. And the military is going to sit back. Law enforcement, they're already you know, taking the power away from law enforcement. You know, like all of this is like
defunding our police.
If you open up your fucking mind, you know, and you pay attention and you look at everything that's been happening, you know, you can't help. I mean, I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on now, but you can't help but see the pattern. Like you said before, when you see the patterns.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's all there. It's very obvious if you pay attention.
Yeah. It's just, it seems like a long time coming. And it's almost like maybe there's been some new relationships that have happened with our government. You know, 2021 seems to be a new year for that. And it just seems like maybe there was a new relationship that has been made where there's a lot of technology where it's like, that was the rollout plan, and maybe that was over 25 to 30 years, right? We're going to do it in 2 years because we have the technology to do it and to get it there. And why don't we try it from this perspective and through this lens, you know?
Yeah, well, there's an agenda to get there in a hurry. Yeah.
Because, you know, quite frankly, it just seems like abrupt, you know, where it's like, wait a minute, this technology is here and all this. And it's just like all of a sudden where it's just like, technology like that, it seems like would take, you know, even the way things have been progressing, you know. And I've said this to a lot of people over time, too, just with the iPhone, you know. We're in this sort of like a Goldilocks phase, I feel like, because we're just so used to the iPhone 10, you know, then the 11, then the 12 rolled out and all that stuff. Like those, like the capabilities of that phone, you know, just with the specific to the video, you know, and the camera and all that, you know, and taking pictures and stuff like that. They're so dramatically more advanced than the one prior to that, you know. And again, this Goldilocks phase, because of the competition that's out there, it's just naturally, I think that we're going to look back on this and go, holy shit, look at the technology in these phones year after year after year, where it would have been like a decade in the past that it would have taken to get from the 11 to the 12 and what it can do. And now you're seeing UFOs with a piece of glass and, they forgot that lens in there, you know, something like that. So I just think that eventually we're going to look back on this Goldilocks phase and just be like, holy shit, people don't even realize what's happening. It's just because they've become so used to it. You know, and it's just a different perspective that I have on things because nobody really knows what goes into the technology and getting it to that next level. You know, like these phones they can handle the spaceship and they could have gotten us to the moon and stuff like that. Well, what can these do? You know, and pretty soon they're going to be able to produce holograms and stuff like that because that's a pretty big jump for me. You know
the funny thing is that, you know, there's more technology in your iPhone than there was in the moon, you know, what got us to the moon. Yeah. But we could save that for a whole nother episode.
Right.
But what I think, you know, what you're referring to as this Goldilocks moment, what I think people are going to look back at, they're going to be like, wow, I can't believe how I did not protect my privacy. That's what I think is going to happen because these phones have phone recognition. They have your fingerprints. They know all of your fucking lifestyle preferences because of social media. And I think
all technology,
all of that information is going into this machine, this thing, this event that's going to happen. Yeah. And it understands how the AI, I should say, is going to understand how to manipulate the to get the best case scenario, which is going to be the worst case scenario for us, because they have all of our information. They know how our psyche works. Yeah. You know, and the algorithms are going to figure all that shit out.
No doubt. That wild stuff.
So here it is, Project Bluebeam, you know, broken out into the 4 different steps, and this is what they're trying to achieve. You know, number 1, the breakdown of the archaeological knowledge. The the space show with holograms and sound that we were talking about in our previous episode. This telepathic electronic two-way communication, which I don't know, we didn't really elaborate on it, but the Morris couple, the husband and wife couple, there's another video that we'll put on its own. It's a long video. It's like 20, 30 minutes on its own. We'll put that, and they talk about the technology that they worked with our CIA and our FBI and all of our intelligence agencies. To develop all of this psyop weaponry, and some of this is this telepathic electronic two-way communication. And then the last one is the supernatural manifestation, which I don't know how much you guys know about HAARP, but there's this ability to control the weather and earthquakes, and all of that shit's gonna happen here. You're gonna feel an earthquake.
Myself, I think I called you in the middle of what I thought was a storm / mist / whatever over Long Island, where it was nowhere else, and I'm like, this is really strange, and there's birds trying to figure out what to do right now, and they're in my backyard because they got nowhere to go. But that could be another episode on its own too. We've had some cool things on our own experiences here, guys. So, we're gonna go flip back to us. So I hope giving you some things to think about.
This has been enlightening, and a different perspective on the things that draw us or make us gravitate to this kind of content.
Yeah.
And then what the Phinnean podcast is really about. This is a little bit of a rogue episode, just to keep us all grounded, keep us all balanced. We drinking the Kool-Aid, we're not drinking the Kool-Aid.
And to give another perspective on things too, just like it's almost like this technology is sort of based on, you question everything, right? Well, not that we want you to second guess every single thing that you're doing, but it's just that, the message here is like, let's stay positive, guys. Let's kind of all not just drink too much Kool-Aid and then, go too far, because we really want you to stay away from the bullshit.
Right.
We're going to bring a lot of good things to the fold that we think are very relevant and important. JP and I are going to certainly take a critical approach to evaluating that stuff for you guys and kind of bring it to fruition here.
Stay positive and stay smart, please.
Yeah. So, thanks again, everybody, honestly, for checking in with us. Again, tell us what you think. Tell us how you feel. And, don't forget to look up.
That's right. See you on the other side. Peace, peoples.
Later.
Peace.